Welcome back to Prankster, the final book in Fazbear Frights. Today is part 2 of the very first story, and so far we haven't really gotten to any of the scares so far, but it seems like those are getting very close, so I'm excited. Let's continue. So, where we left off, Jeremiah and his friends were meeting up again like they do every week, and that's about it. Don't know how this is important to the story, but I'm assuming we're going to find out. They met in college, and Jeremiah's the only one who isn't in a relationship right now, so he's interested in Hope, but that hasn't really gone anywhere. So, I guess we'll see where this goes. Jeremiah walked into Leonardo's and scanned the dining room, which was decorated in what could only be called cheeseball Italian style, with framed pictures of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and the Colosseum, and red and white checked plastic tablecloths. Matt and Ty already had a table and waved him over. Ty's looks hadn't changed a bit since college. He was still a boyish-looking black guy wearing the same round, gold-framed glasses he always had. But marriage and fatherhood had caused Matt to gain what he jokingly called his baby weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes, from exhaustion. He was genuinely starting to look like he could be someone's dad. "Hey, Jay," Ty said, gesturing for Jeremiah to sit down. "I was just telling Ty how I don't really know how much help I'm going to be at team trivia tonight," Matt said, yawning theatrically. "Connor's teething, and I haven't slept for 3 nights. The joys of fatherhood, huh?" Ty said, smiling. Matt didn't return the smile. "Just you wait, buddy." "Oh, I plan to wait," Ty said, "as long as possible." They were interrupted by the arrival of their usual server, who gave them a quick glance and rattled off extra large pepperoni and mushroom and 3 diet sodas. "And that's how you know we've been coming here for too long," Ty said. After the server left, Ty turned to Jeremiah. "So, how are things at your glamorous workplace?" Both Matt and Ty had regular IT jobs with fairly boring businesses. They always playfully expressed jealousy that Jeremiah had landed a job in game development. Jeremiah thought it was a trade-off. Sure, he had a cooler-sounding job, but unlike them, he was alone. No wife or girlfriend, no kids, not even a pet. "It's not that glamorous," Jeremiah said. "It feels like we're just barely keeping afloat in a tiny life raft. I hope this VR game is a big seller. It would be good for things to be on the upswing again." He thought of his day at work, the hidden hot chip, followed by Hope's protectiveness of him, and her saying that the two of them complimented each other. "But I think things might be looking up with Hope." He replayed the whole story of his and Hope's interactions, and followed it with, "So, what do you think?" "It sounds hopeful," Matt said, and then laughed for far too long at his terrible pun. Ty rolled his eyes. "Ignore Matt and his horrible dad jokes. I think it sounds like she definitely cares about you, man. She may not be totally into you yet, but the things she said about you complimenting each other sounds promising." "Why say promising when you can say hopeful?" Matt said. "I think you're so tired you're punchy," Ty said to Matt. "Don't you mean punchy?" Matt was cracking himself up. "As your sane friend, unlike this one," Ty said, chucking Matt on the shoulder, "I say you should ask her out." "Well, yeah, but what if she says no?" Jeremiah's stomach knotted in anxiety. "Well, that would suck, but at least you would have had the courage to ask her," Ty said. "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." "But what would the courage be worth, especially if I have to see her at work every day after she turns me down?" Jeremiah couldn't imagine the awkwardness. And then, too, if Parker got wind of the fact that Hope had rejected Jeremiah, he would never let Jeremiah forget it. "I can tell by the look on your face that you're worrying about problems that you don't have yet," Ty said. "Just ask her out." Matt began rhythmically pounding on the table and chanting, "Ask her out! Ask her out!" Ty joined him, and Jeremiah, laughing, finally said he'd think about it. But his friends only stopped pounding on their table when the pizza arrived. Before we continue the audiobook, I'd like to say that this video is sponsored by my second channel, Chris Stakes. If you'd like to see me whine and complain about stupid Nintendo games, there will be a link in the description. I think that it's pretty cool. I think that I've got some good stuff up there already, and there's going to be more every week. So if you're interested at all, check it out, because otherwise I'll be sad. And while we're at it, here's a clip from one of the most recent episodes.
Ultimately, we got a rough draft for the NES we know today, the typical 8-bit Easy Bake Oven. It's funny now, but according to my reliable sources, the console was originally meant to surpass the ColecoVision, which is the greatest thing I've read today. The ColecoVision. I bet there's like 3 people watching who even know what that was. As the final project neared completion, features like an eject lever and a microphone were added. Thrilling stuff. Guess who used the microphone? Nobody!
Thanks for listening, enjoy the rest of the video. Bathroom mirror, Jeremiah ran the razor over his foamy face. Today's the day, he told his reflection. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask her out. He splashed warm water on his chin, dried off, and combed his hair. He looked himself over, something he hardly ever did. Not bad, he decided. True, it wasn't slick or handsome like Parker, but there was also something about Parker's face that made it seem exceptionally punchable. Jeremiah at least looked like a nice guy. He was a nice guy, he told himself. He would be an excellent boyfriend if given the chance. He put on an extra coat of deodorant because he knew the anxiety would make him sweaty. He squirted toothpaste on the toothbrush, and as he brushed, he remembered Matt and Ty's rhythmic chant as they pounded on the table at Leonardo's. Ask her out. Ask her out. On the elevator, he kept his fingers crossed that when he entered the office, he would find Hope alone so they could talk. But when the door slid open, he saw that he had no such luck. Oh good, he's here, Parker said. He was standing with Hope, who was looking heartbreakingly pretty in a robin's egg blue blouse that somehow made her eyes look even bigger and browner. Both Parker and Hope were holding VR headsets. Hey guys, Jeremiah muttered, trying to hide his disappointment. Hey dude, Parker said, we were wondering if you could open up the testing room and get things running. I wanted to do a practice run on the game so far, and I thought Hope could help me. It was the exact opposite of the situation Jeremiah had wished for. Basically, Parker was asking Jeremiah for the privilege of being sealed in a dark room alone with Hope. You want me to help out too? Jeremiah asked, fearing he already knew the answer. Nah, it'd be better if you monitored things on the computer, Parker said, grinning his loathsome grin. I figure Hope will bring a fresh take on things since she's not actually working on the game development. She can experience it from a player's perspective. Right, Jeremiah said. Well, let me get things set up. He used his keycard to open the door to the practice room and then sat down in front of his computer. How could he have been feeling so good when he woke up this morning only to feel so despondent now? Okay, Hope, ready to have some fun? Parker asked, sounding like a demented game show host. Also, where did he get off calling her Hopi? It sounded like dopey. He hated it. Sure, Hope said, giggling. They disappeared into the test room, and Parker shut the door behind them. Jeremiah tried to concentrate on his work, but for once he couldn't. He felt sick. Every couple of minutes he heard a stray chuckle coming from the testing room. The intimate-sounding laughter made his mind go places he didn't want it to go. Stop it, he ordered himself. They're playing the game, that's all. Of course they're laughing. People tend to laugh after a good jump scare. But then the what-ifs started. What if they're not playing the game? What if they're laughing because they're flirting with each other? What if it's more than flirting? What if his greasy mouth is pressed against her petal-like lips? What if his slimy paw is stroking her wavy, lustrous hair? The more Jeremiah didn't want to picture these things, the more he saw them. By the time Parker and Hope emerged laughing and disheveled from the testing room, Jeremiah was a shaky, sweaty mess. You know what, he said, I might go on home. I think I've picked up a little bug or something. You look a little gray, Hope said, sounding concerned. I feel it, Jeremiah said. Wow, you must, Parker added. You never miss work. I know. Jeremiah was already on his feet and putting on his jacket. But I just can't be here. Well, rest up so you can sure to come in tomorrow, Parker said. The last thing he saw before closing the door was Hope, biting her lower lip like she did when she was excited about something. At home, Jeremiah put on his pajamas and got into bed as he would if he were really sick. But he was really sick, wasn't he? He was heartsick, and that had to count. He would happily take a stomach bug or a bad cold over how he felt right now. Lying in bed, Jeremiah couldn't imagine a time in his life where he wouldn't be alone. And then he remembered something that, under the present circumstances, made him even more miserable. Tomorrow was his birthday. As Jeremiah plowed through his cereal without really tasting it, he decided the easiest thing to do would be to pretend it wasn't his birthday. Certainly, nobody at the office would remember. Parker and Hope would probably be too busy canoodling in the dark testing room to even know he was there. If he just pretended this was another ordinary day at work, maybe he could avoid the nagging disappointment of a forgotten birthday. If he ignored it at first, he couldn't be that upset that people were ignoring it too, right? Jeremiah's phone vibrated. He picked it up to see a text from his mom. Happy birthday! Wish I could be there for pancakes and presents. Gift card in the mail. As he was replying with a thanks and heart emoji, memories of his childhood birthdays flooded back to him. Jeremiah had always been so excited to see what his birthday presents were that he couldn't wait without feeling like he was going to explode. Finally, probably to save herself from spending a nerve-wracking day with an overexcited child, his mom had started the tradition of pancakes and presents. Since Jeremiah always woke up early on his birthday, who could sleep with all that excitement, his mom started the tradition of making him a big birthday breakfast. The cheesy scrambled eggs he liked, bacon, and a stack of buttermilk pancakes with a candle in them. After he ate breakfast, he could open his presents. It had been a stroke of genius on his mom's part, really. That way, he had all day to play with his new toys or games instead of spending all day pestering her about when he could tear into his gifts. On the evening of his birthday, Mom and Dad had always taken him and a friend of his choosing to Freddy's for pizza and games. There it is. Okay, Jeremiah felt himself tearing up a little at the thought of those perfect birthdays of his past. There were no birthdays like childhood birthdays. After all that fun and fanfare, adult birthdays always felt disappointing. Maybe he should have gone out for pancakes this morning. He hadn't noticed it was raining until he stepped outside his apartment building. He cast a glance back inside. His umbrella was in his apartment 6 floors up. It didn't seem worth the trouble to go back and get it. He zipped up his jacket and walked in that strange, hunched way people walk when it's raining on them. On the elevator, he tried to mentally prepare himself for the scene he was going to walk into today. Would Hope and Parker be tittering over something at Parker's desk? Would they already be locked in the testing room? Would they announce their engagement? Don't get caught up in the drama, he told himself. Just do your job and go home. Maybe you can order takeout or watch a movie or something. When the elevator door slid open, Jeremiah was genuinely surprised by what he saw. The office was lit by strings of tiny fairy lights. A huge banner with balloons surrounding it said, "Happy birthday, Jeremiah." He smiled. They had remembered. Or even better, she had remembered. But there was nobody around. Were they waiting to jump out and yell a surprise? Had they not heard him come in? "Hey guys," Jeremiah said, loud enough for his voice to carry to wherever they were hiding. "Thanks, this is really nice." There was no answer. No movement, no sign of anyone being there but him. He walked down the hall to the break area. On the table where the now infamous hot chip lunch had taken place, a birthday cake sat. Looking just like he remembered from childhood, a white frosted grocery store bakery sheet cake, trimmed with piped royal blue icing. "Happy birthday, Jeremy," was written in blue icing on top. Oh, Jeremy, interesting. That is very interesting. Jeremy being the beta tester from FNAF VR who ended up dying with his face sliced off and stuff. Weird. Also a security guard from FNAF 2, so who really knows? It's probably nothing. But it is interesting that he's also working on a VR game, so yeah, he could totally be the guy working on the game before it was handed off to, I believe, something Umbrella Studios, which is the canon studio that finished the game after the studio before it kind of dropped it. I don't know. I don't think it's anything, but it could be. It was close enough. And whoever had put the candles on, Hope probably, had put on the right number. Maybe he had been wrong about adult birthdays. Maybe they were waiting for him to get deeply immersed in his work, and then they were going to jump out and surprise him. "Jeremiah." The voice was coming from the loudspeaker, which was never used since their office staff had dwindled to such a small number. The voice sounded deep and electronic, like when people are interviewed anonymously on TV and don't want anyone to hear their real voice. But there was no doubt in Jeremiah's mind who distorted the voice belonged to. He knew that Parker had decided to make him the victim of a birthday prank. He hoped it would be a good-natured prank at least. "Jeremiah," the distorted voice repeated, "I've taken your coworkers Parker and Hope hostage. If you call the police, I will kill them immediately." "Uh-huh," Jeremiah said, sounding as unconvinced as he felt. The distorted voice was obviously Parker's. "You have a choice to make, birthday boy. You can flee the building with the confidence that you will live to see another birthday even though your friends won't. Or you can try to save your friends. If you take this option, you have 30 minutes. The longer you take, the worse shape they'll be in when you find them. Now, what is your choice?" "I choose to save my friends," Jeremiah said with a sigh. In truth, he considered Parker to be a bully, not a friend. But he wanted to make a good impression on Hope, and triumphing over one of Parker's pranks seemed like a good way to do it. Plus, it was just a stupid game anyway, right? Like those escape rooms people choose to get themselves locked into so they could have the fun of finding the clues that would get them out. It was his birthday, after all. He might as well play a game. "Very well," the distorted voice said. "Use your time wisely, or your friends may be missing a few pieces. Your time starts now." Jeremiah stood up. He had to hand it to Parker. This was certainly darker and more imaginative than his usual pranks. He looked around the workroom trying to find clues. He looked on top of Parker's desk and even pulled the drawers open and looked inside. Nothing out of the ordinary. He went to the reception desk where Hope usually kept her stuff. Her purse was stored in the usual drawer, which meant she had definitely come in this morning. He wouldn't stoop so low as to invade her privacy by digging through her purse. So Hope was somewhere in the building because her purse was here, and he knew Parker was here because he had heard him on the loudspeaker. To win this game, to beat Parker and impress Hope, he had to turn himself into a combination of an action hero and a sharp-minded detective. What was it Sherlock Holmes used to say in the stories Jeremiah had liked in his middle school days? The game is afoot. Since you're at the desk, you might as well write something down, the distorted voice over the loudspeaker boomed. Your first clue is an anagram. Write it down. Stinger Moot. Stinger Moot? Jeremiah yelled back at the voice in the loudspeaker. Parker's voice. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense, the voice bellowed. It's an anagram. You're wasting precious time, Jeremiah. Write it down. Stinger space Moot. Jeremiah did as he was told, but he wasn't going to let Parker intimidate or pressure him. Not this time. He wanted Hope to see the kind of person he really was, that he wasn't just a hapless foil for Parker's pranks. Anagrams. It had been a long time since Jeremiah had thought about anagrams. Those were the ones where the letters were scrambled up, weren't they? He looked at the nonsensical combination of words. If this was truly a clue, then it was probably directing him to a location in the building. With those letters eliminated, it didn't take him long to figure out that the remaining letters could be arranged to spell testing. The testing room, he said, feeling an undeniable sense of accomplishment. I need to go to the testing room. He walked instead of running. He didn't want Parker to think he was feeling pressured. It was just a game, after all. He used his keycard to open the door to the testing room, then turned on the light. In the middle of the floor sat a small gift box, the size that most often contained jewelry. The little box was wrapped in colorful paper with a shiny purple bow on top. So this was a birthday treasure hunt with a horror suspense theme? Jeremiah could live with that. At least he could say this birthday wasn't like every other day. He walked across the room, crouched down, and picked up the small box. He unwrapped it carefully, just in case there might be a clue written on the inside of the wrapping paper. The hinged box was a deep crimson, flocked with velvet, the kind of box that might cradle an engagement ring. He flipped the lid open. His stomach lurched. Teeth. The velvet-lined box was filled with teeth. Some large, some perhaps small enough to be baby teeth. One molar was flecked with blood in the bottom, where it had been yanked out by the root. Jeremiah wanted to keep his cool, but couldn't help but visibly shudder. Where had Parker managed to get teeth, of all things? Was he friends with a dentist who had a sixth sense of humor? Jeremiah took out a deep breath. A clue, he told himself. The teeth were supposed to be a clue. Stop freaking out and start thinking. He didn't want to touch the teeth, but he knew he needed to examine them for possible clues. He took a tissue from his pocket, spread it over the palm of his left hand, and shook the teeth onto the tissue. They contained no distinguishing marks or features. There were 7 of them. Could the number be significant? 7 certainly didn't feel like a lucky number when it was referring to a bunch of extracted teeth. He set the teeth aside and examined the box. He pulled out the velvet liner. In the bottom of the box was a small piece of paper that had been folded into a tiny square. Jeremiah unfolded the paper. On it, a typed message read, "Sink your teeth into this clue, Jeremiah. Give me one, and I'll make more, each one like the one before. What am I?" Jeremiah didn't have to think for long. He'd always been good at riddles. That's easy, the copy machine. "Don't get too confident, Jeremiah," the distorted voice boomed out of the loudspeaker, making him jump. "The time is ticking away, only 20 minutes left, and the slower you are, the more they'll suffer. I wonder, if you do manage to find your friends, will you even be able to recognize them?" "You're really enjoying this, aren't you, Parker?" Jeremiah said, as he exited the testing room, leaving the teeth behind. "Stop nagging me, I'm on my way to the copy room." In no particular hurry, Jeremiah made his way down the dark hallway. The copy room was the third door on the left. When he walked inside, lights from the machine emanated an eerie glow. At first, he went to the machine itself, but found nothing out of the ordinary. He scanned the room. It was small, so there weren't many hiding places. Other than the machine, there was just a waste basket, a recycling bin, and a long table where people could collate their copies. He looked on the table and saw only the usual office supplies. A cup holding pens and scissors, a stapler, and the usual small jar of paper clips. Wait, those aren't paper clips. And I think that's where we'll leave it for now. We're going to leave it right there. We're getting to the gore. Sure hope this is actually FNAF related. Obviously it's not going to be Parker who's doing the prank, supposedly. Obviously, this is actually happening, I guess. The question is, who's doing it, and is it going to be plausible when we find out? I'm not so sure if it will. I've heard that the story is not the greatest, from what I've heard. At least like in terms of making sense. So I guess we'll see. Part 3 coming soon. Maybe tomorrow, hopefully. Alright, see you then. Bye-bye.